Hey, welcome back to the Comic Watchers Show. I am Matt. Mike Akins is not here this week. He was a little under the weather, but he will be with us for a special episode this Saturday. So we're just going to get things kicked off. This week, I am talking to Neil Kleid and the one and only Andrea Mutti. We are talking about
Hi guys,
ComiXologies.
thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you guys so much for being here. Really great to talk to both of you. We are talking about ComiXology's new release from you guys. It comes out May 3rd.
Yes,
called
we're close.
Panic. And it is not Panic Room. It is not Satanic Panic.
It's worse.
It is like
Well, I'll tell you what. I read the first issue, and it could be very worse. So, Neil, Andrea,
Yep.
let's talk about Panic or the Panic. Pardon me.
It's like the Batman, but the Panic.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. So, go ahead. What is the Panic about?
Yeah, the Panic is a thriller series set in New York about a group of commuters that get stuck under the Hudson River after their PATH train basically derails.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about how these strangers have to kind of put aside all their prejudices, their racial, political, social points of view, and kind of put all that aside and just be human and work together to survive. And that's really, it's like a very gripping psychological human drama. There's a lot of danger, you know, if you've ever been underneath the Hudson River, and I've only been underneath in a train, but as you kind of go by, you can see it's very dark and it's very dangerous. And so it's about these people who have to not only kind of survive that to get out, but also understand like what happened. It's very much about, you know, we use the title The Panic because it's about that moment of fear after something terrible happens and you don't really know what it is, why it happened, or what's going on. And you kind of have to just really react to what's around you with the people that are around you. So it's kind of got like two levels. It's about that very quick moment of fear, but it's also about the fear that sort of builds up because of the situation and because of the people and because of the danger that you now find yourself in. And that's really what the story is about.
Yeah.
Andrea, you came in and really, you're working in a really claustrophobic setting for this series. Most of the issue, not all, but a lot of the issue takes place inside the subway car or in the wreckage of it, or immediately thereafter. What kind of challenges did that present to you as an artist, trying to adequately convey that sense of claustrophobia?
Well, this is a nice question because we have mostly just one section, you know, one set. The set is the underground, so beneath the ground, and we have the wagons of the train, and the dark and the light, and that's it. So my point was try to be super clear, super clean, using a lot of black areas of the negative zones, but with some lights, very cold, very, you know, very nervous colors, to try to put the readers in the same connection, the same feeling with the commenters. I mean, the point was trying to use the colors not like the classic descriptions colors, but something like a feelings color. Try to put the readers in the same situation. Time in time, we have some spot with the outside, and this is the good moment where my style became like very soft, very normal, with the snow, for example. And the very interesting thing for me, working with Neil, issue by issue, my style became more nervous and nervous and nervous. Like it's a descent from the light to the bottom and beneath of the soul of the people, of the darkness, you know, place in earth. So something very moody and at the same time very realistic. So this is my point.
Yeah, what's great about it is that there's that moment where you're like, oh crap, I've just written a 5-issue miniseries that's set in the dark, right? So which for some artists might be like, all right, it's all just like fields of black, you know, that's great. But what Andrea did really was use color in a way that really is less about, like, there's that sense of darkness and claustrophobia, but really use very vivid paints to kind of heighten fear and tension and anger. And like he mentions, like there's moments outside where it kind of opens up and breathes a little bit more. And the color, you know, we've talked about this before, how like two of the main characters of this story are the fear and the city. But color might be a character and part of our ensemble as well. It really tells its own story and tells it's really an essential part of the narrative.
Yes, thank you, sir.
I was noticing that because when you're underground, the coloring, it's all very muted. It's got that kind of aqua blue happening, and then you've got some yellows interspersed with it, or reds that just really pop off the page very well, very vividly.
If you pay attention, if you take a picture on underground, the colors are pretty much the same, like 1, 2, 3 colors, like yellow, green, blue, and black, and that's it. So the red, the blue, the brown, they're melted. I mean, it's not the real color. So everything is kind of a little bubble of colors, melting pot of color. I love this kind of approach. This is very visual. It's very powerful for me.
Absolutely. And then there's a wonderful transition early in the issue where we're sitting on a swing set with our main character, Annie, and everything is pretty naturalistically colored. And then we shift out of the quote unquote real world to this horrific situation that she and this train car full of people are in, and all of the colors become much more immediate and much more stark. Neil, was that sort of transition something that you had in mind when you were visualizing this story, or is it just kind of a happy accident?
So I mean, part of it was like, look, Andrea, I'm not going to take credit for the choices you made. The only thing that I think the script really did kind of do purposefully was have that moment where Annie, who is one of our lead characters, she's part of an ensemble, is sort of outside in the snow, and it's very kind of like this very open, very breathable moment, and then really kind of shift to this sort of dark place. And that was definitely something in the script that was kind of planned. The rest, you know, my wonderful co-author really kind of orchestrated all of the color choices. The one thing that I kind of like, and I think we both agreed on early on, was that, I mean, there's blood in the story, and the moments of blood where you see kind of that very vivid red, we wanted to make those moments sort of pop.
Absolutely.
And whereas everything else, where all the other reds might be a little bit more muted and a little bit darker, the areas where you do see kind of like moments of blood, and you'll see it again later, really kind of like jump out at you.
Well, and it communicates the starkness, right? Of the situation so well. So, guys, how did you all come together for this project?
So I have been working on this book in some form or another for quite a while. It actually started its life as a prose novel and then became a comic.
You got ahead of me. I was reading your back matter. You actually got ahead of my questions there.
Yeah,
definitely coming around to that.
Yeah, I wrote it as a novel. I did like kind of like a print-on-demand thing, and then I got the notice of some editors, and it's actually been at a few houses and kind of been developed. And everybody who's sort of touched it has added a layer to it, which has been kind of nice. So there were some editors before. Our current editor, Mariah McCourt, who's amazing, kind of helped us out with it. You know, they've all kind of added a little bit of depth to it.
Sure.
But the book landed finally at ComiXology, where it's going to be now, where it's debuting next week. And we could not be more excited to be working with them. I've known Chip Mosher, who's kind of the champion of our book. He's been a pal of mine for a while. We've been looking for something to do together. Yeah. And he really kind of saw the promise of the panic and really has been kind of helping us every step of the way. And he actually connected the two of us. We were looking for the right partner, for the right co-author for me to work with. And he was like, "Oh, do you know Andrea?" I'm like, "I know who he is. I love his work. We've never worked together." And it just, magic happened.
Exactly, magic. So the connections in this world is amazing magic. So we are lucky guys.
Yeah, it's very
absolutely.
Yeah, I would say so. Just looking at the results of this first issue, because everything is really, really organic. Like it's just, you can tell, especially if you've been reading comics for over 3 decades, like I have. You can tell when a creative team's just not quite in sync, right? But this thing has a really sharp flow to it. And Andrea, unless I missed some credits somewhere, it looks like you did the lettering as well.
No,
I actually did
Neil
the
did.
lettering. I lettered.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Well, Neil, I got to give you credit because the panel with the word balloons with the arrows, while Annie and Nayada are
Oh yeah,
sizing the gentleman up on the subway card. That is so inventive. Like I said, I've got a little tenure in the game, maybe more than I'd like to admit, but
yeah, there's a nice moment for those
how
who
inventive.
It's fun out of what for this was, it's really, Neil is really an artist too, because he's a graphic designer with the logo, with the lettering. So I was can talk about myself in the mirror. It's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm a graphic designer by trade. I design websites and apps, and so it's nice to be able to kind of letter the book and also kind of do the logo and some of the back matter and all that. What's helpful as a letterer, what's really kind of great is when you're the writer and you're also lettering the book, it allows you to understand what the economy of the page is.
Sure.
So there are moments where I'm taking Andrea's beautiful artwork and I'm taking my clunky script and I'm putting the dialogue in, and I'm like, wow, if I keep the dialogue as is, you will not see anyone in this panel.
Yeah.
And so you get to kind of rewrite yourself a little bit and understand, like, all right, how can I say this in maybe 10 less words? Or how can I place this in a way that draws the eye around the page so that you can see some of this amazing work and sort of the color choices and choreography that Andrea is doing there, right? So that, I think, as a writer, as a comic book writer, is something that every writer should at least get to do once, right? To understand as a writer what that economy is like, what the page layout kind of can allow, and what where you can kind of play with it a little bit. I am not a professional letterer. There are people who are much better than I am. I can name you probably 10 of them off the top of my head, and I try to learn from them every time I see their work. But what's great about it is that every book I do, every book I letter, I get to kind of understand a little bit better how to have this delicate ballet with my co-author and create just work that really feels like it belongs together.
No, I think you did a great job, very elegant, very nice and clean. I like this kind of, and it's because the lettering is a kind of the opposite of the powerful of the story. Like it's nice. It's very nice. I think it's very well done.
I appreciate it.
Of course.
Well, and it really is. And let's just come right out and say it. Letterers are the unsung heroes of comics, right?
Oh,
Absolutely. So
they get things last minute. They're really not given the credit they're due, and really, especially when you talk about comics, which are a marriage of words and images. I mean,
they're crucial, and yet they're almost treated like a silent partner.
Yeah, and they shouldn't be silent.
Yeah, and when you're trying to read a page or a panel, and the word balloons don't flow the way that your brain is intuiting that they should, it takes you out of the reading experience. Yep. So being able to adequately put all that together, and like you guys said, jam everybody working in distinct concert together for one page at a time, is one of those magic ballets of comics that we just don't hear enough about as a craft. So Neil, I want to, like I said, you got out ahead of me a little bit, unintentionally, of course, but I really was struck in your back matter of the issue that this initially, the seed for what would become the Panic initially originated after 9/11.
Yeah.
Were you around New York? I mean, were you?
So I was living in New York at the time. I moved to New York from Michigan in early '99, and had already been kind of living and working in the city for a while. And the morning of 9/11, I was out of work. I was looking for a job, and I actually had an interview downtown. And I woke up to a call from the interviewers, basically saying, "Hey, listen, we're off. Like, don't even come down here." And I had no idea what was happening, and I was like, "Okay, fine." And then I went back to sleep. And my mom called, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "What's going on?" And she's like, "Turn on your television." And I did, and spent the rest of the day kind of in a daze.
Sure.
And I live on the Upper West Side at the time. It was, for those who are not familiar with New York, it was far away from the towers. But the day and the days to come, what you really noticed about New York was this sense of like coming together as New Yorkers, right? Like,
Yeah.
we went through a tragedy together. The country did, but those of us who lived here, who could smell the smoke, could hear the sirens, who worked together. I mean, I spent that day actually in a local synagogue making sandwiches so people could take them down to those who were working down at Ground Zero.
Right.
And there was a lot of that going on. People giving blood. I mean, I got turned away from 3 places because they just couldn't take anyone else to give blood. And so there was that moment of just like the city really just kind of rallying around itself.
Sure.
And what it kind of got in my head was I had seen that before. I had seen it before in Jerusalem. I spent a year in Jerusalem after high school.
Wow.
And I have friends who live there and still do live there. And you see it a lot like after like a bombing. You know, I have friends who were there when Asparos in Jerusalem blew up, and they were at the site. And you know, there's that moment of just first that moment of what's happening, what just happened, and having to kind of orient yourself. And then there's that moment of what do I do now, and how am I going to help the people around me, and will they help me? And so that really was kind of the seed for the story. And also post 9/11, there was also stories about people who were trapped or just stuck in subways after the trains went down. Like subways stopped. They stopped running, you know, on the lines, and people had to, you know, transit workers came or police came and helped them out. And so for me, it was about that moment of just like, if I was underground on the one train and they're not going to tell me like over the speaker, hey, you know, the towers were just like, right, you have to kind of find out what's going on your own. And so there's that moment of unknown, that moment of just like panic of like, what just happened? And what do I do now? And will you help me? Or will I help you? And that really is kind of what drove the story. And, and unfortunately, I along with a lot of other people, kind of got caught up in a more like jingoistic sort of point of view, where it was about like, the original story was a terror attack on a subway train. It wasn't what it is now, which is what I call like science gone wrong. And so there's that shift that sort of happened over the years from the original seed, where it was originally like about like what happens after a terror attack. And now it's more like post-apocalyptic, as I said, science gone wrong. And that's kind of where it shifted. But it also evolved over the years because, I mean, America has changed the world has changed over the years. And so if you read it matter, I clearly state like this story has endured so much between the Occupy movement, Ferguson, the George Floyd murder, like just, over the years, just so many things have happened, you know, anti-Semitism and hate crimes, shootings, school shootings, public shootings. There's just been so much. Sorry, that might be my dog up there. So much has happened since I started writing this story, that when I first explored the question of like, would strangers in a train come together in the dark? My question was, would they now? Are we so divided politically, racially, socially? Are we so divided as a people? Can we put the shit aside and basically say, look, we're humans and we need to help each other? And you know, we were just saying a couple of weeks ago, it feels like forever ago, but it was only a few weeks ago, there was a shooting on the Brooklyn subways. And thank God New Yorkers kind of rose to the occasion and helped one another.
Absolutely.
And did what they were supposed to do. And our story is sort of the cautionary tale of what would happen if they didn't. Or what would happen, maybe not if they didn't, but maybe if things didn't go the way we would hope. And that's kind of what this story is. And that's where the value comes in. It's like, it's almost sort of saying, if we don't kind of get our act together, this could happen. And that's what it's about.
Well, and I think...
Yes.
Go ahead, Andrea.
No, yeah. Well, you know, I can tell that the story is pretty simple and at the same time crazy complex, because the human beings are complex creatures. And in that kind of situation, the doubt, the fear, are the main point of view, because okay, you're my friend or not? Who are you? Who am I? Why? I don't trust you. Why did you do that? Not this. I'm the chief. I'm the lead. No, you. So it's really sometimes it remind me, Lost, the first 2 seasons of Lost. Remember, sometimes I had this kind of recall. There was a bunch of people different, each other totally different, like attitude, like political stuff, political involvement, something like that. But at the same time, normal people they have to fight, but they have to survive together, and they have to find the right way. But it's not simple. It seems it's kind of theater of the human being,
Yeah, and
attitude.
I think the other sort of thread that kind of or theme that kind of runs through it is don't judge a book by its cover, right?
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah, we see a little bit of that right there in the first issue.
yeah. With the tension, the
when our activists clash with the gentleman in the red hat.
Right, and that runs through the book, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, there's people who, like, you know, Andrea said, like, are you a lead? Are you not the lead? Are you a good person? Or are you a bad person? It's hard to tell. Like, we have, as humans, we have natural inclinations to prejudge people, and one of the things that we kind of show throughout the comic is sometimes, you know, your first impressions aren't the right impressions.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think we touch many arguments without being too much politically involved, and not too much like this kind of stuff that you want to be in that way because it's a trendy stuff, it's a trendy way. No, very serious, but in the right way, I guess. Not like because now it's right to do this thing in that way. So I really appreciate this kind of approach because it's smart, it's very respectful, and you can have some question. You can, okay, why? Nice, good idea. I didn't understand that. Why not? Or yes, could be. I love this kind of serious and really professional approach about these very important details about this real world.
Of course. It's really striking to me, you know, when we get to the don't judge a book by its cover aspect of it, that there's very deliberate moves within the context of the cast, at least so far, to not paint anybody in a stereotypical or at least expected light, right? Like our gentleman in the red hat, for example. He's just kind of minding his own business, right?
Right.
And
so here's the thing. Here's the thing.
But the hat is a trigger for other people.
Well, it's for me. I mean, look,
why wouldn't it be? I mean, look.
I'll be very blunt and say I'm, you know, what you would call the left-leaning liberal, right? So I'd probably land on the side of Andy, who is kind of the POV character in the first issue, where, you know, I've been out in the world and seen that hat and seen, you know, other things, you know, Let's Go Brandon bumper stickers or, you know, what have you. And my first reaction is, you know, what it is.
One of those. Yep.
And what you find over the story is what we tried not to do was really both sides of the situation, right? We, you know, which I think is not the best. Like, I definitely have my opinions, and the story definitely will show some of those opinions. But also, you know, people are people. And people make choices because they believe certain things.
Yeah.
I will say that our you know, our red hat man, our conservative character Rocco, is not what I would call QAnon. He's not, you know.
QAnon. Yeah.
There's a certain level that I personally would have trouble sort of relating to, but he's also a guy who, you know, feels like life has done certain things to him and made decisions in his life because of that. And that will and our characters, other characters will not agree with him, and many of our readers won't agree with him, and many of our readers won't agree with me, and will say like, "Oh, you were too nice to this side or the other," right?
Right.
And so my opinion is what the story definitely does is open that conversation, and any good story makes you feel one way or the other, right? Either love it, hate it, angry, happy, and I don't know that there's sort of a right or wrong here. I can tell you how I feel. I can tell you how Andrea feels. I can tell you how Mariah feels. And that's what you see in the story.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to, before we run out of time, guys, because 30 minutes has gone by so fast.
Oh,
It always
yeah.
does. But I really want to talk about Annie for a second because she is very, very, very Gen Z in her perspective, and not, she doesn't come up, none of us are necessarily in that age bracket. We'll just put it out there. But her voice feels very authentic. And I mean, the things that she's legitimately concerned with, taking the pandemic seriously by wearing a mask and social distancing, and her friends' Black Lives Matter stance, and the confrontation that she gets into with the transit cop, or tries to get into, I guess. Um, it just feels very real. How were you able to bring that level of authenticity to Annie's perspective and worldview without sounding like you were just phoning it in? Does that, if that makes sense?
Look, authentic representation is very important to me, right? As a writer, I want to make sure that the characters that you see on the page are characters who are believable, real, and right. So we have I'll come back to Annie, but we have one of the credits in the book is Amanda Stevens, who's our diversity and inclusion consultant, and we brought Amanda in to really look at the scripts and look at the art and look at characters who, like, look, I'll just sort of cut to it. I'm a 46-year-old white Jew. Many of the characters in our story are not 46-year-old white Jews, and there are points of view and worldviews that I have not lived,
Right.
and I can't speak to, right? And what I wanted to make sure is that we presented and what we both wanted to make sure was that we presented a diverse set of New Yorkers, because not all New Yorkers are white Jews, right? Or, white at all, right? So that's kind of where we really, so Amanda was great in making sure that every character that was on the page, everyone that we kind of put out there, was authentic, and we were very sensitive to how we portrayed them. So to kind of dial back to Annie, yes, I am older than Annie. Andrea, you're older than Annie. She's definitely on the younger side. But having been out in the world, and I have kids, I have nieces and nephews who are kind of that age, a little younger, and I've been out, and I've spoken to people and seen people, and you just kind of see on social media, right? Like, you kind of get a feeling of this feels sort of authentic, and you want to run it past somebody like Annie and say, would you say this? Or does this kind of feel like off base? And you sort of check those things. You check to make sure that you're not just, like you said, sort of phoning it in, or,
Right.
or creating characters where you're like, I'm 40, but I'm trying to sound like I'm 20, and it just isn't kind of coming out. I know, comics that do that. There are comics sometimes where you kind of like guess at it. I really wanted to make sure that the dialogue and some of the references were kind of spot on, and hopefully that will come through. Some people may feel like I'm
It's a rare talent, man. It really is. Like, it's circle back to something we touched on a couple times in this conversation, is you can tell when something's not right. Like, you can tell when, for example, Neil, if you were just doing your best guess at what a Gen Z 18-year-old girl would talk like, or Andrea, you didn't bother to do your research on how this kid would dress, like, we would know, or the intended audience would probably be able to feel that. So I mean, kudos to you both. And this is just such a remarkable first issue. I really, really enjoyed it. I know it's,
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know it's only 5 issues, and the first one, like we said from the start, comes out next week, May 3rd. But I cannot wait to see where it goes. And I would be doing you guys a disservice too if I didn't shamelessly plug that the collected physical edition is coming out this fall from Dark Horse.
Yep.
Yes.
And that's also cool because they're just awesome people.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love Dark Horse? I'm sorry. I've never heard a single person say a bad thing about their creative experience with Dark Horse.
I just did a book with them last year, so they're great. They're great.
Oh, super great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, the first issue comes out May 3rd on ComiXology. You can pre-order it now. May 3rd, you can check it out on the ComiXology app, and then every month we'll put out another one. And I will say that this is the quietest of the 5 issues. it just gets tense and more tense from there.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna wrap it up in a nice, pretty bow, and Dark Horse is gonna put it out hopefully in November, depending on supply chain issues and paper. But that's the target, I believe, is November of 2022.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And guys, I know you're just starting on this journey, but what's next for you guys creatively? I know you guys are busy because I was doing.
People will buy this and we'll get to do more.
Well, I'm really confident, but this story can't be stopped on 5 issue because there's too much to tell, and you will see the evolution or the involution of the characters. But this is the point. Annie, for example, I love Annie, but it's not my favorite one. But there are a lot of great characters. Maybe they appear for 3 times for 1 issue, but they're amazing. And what I love of this story is this kind of journey. It's a journey in the journey. So it's really incredible. And they talk about something really normal and natural. And I was really excited every time I read the script. I'm the first reader. And I was really excited and reading something regular. No plan to save, no superhero, no super cool people.
Yeah.
Normal guys in normal situation. That can happen to me, to you guys. And this is really, really, I love this kind of realistic approach. I'm full enough about super stuff, super everything, and I try to step back and to try to tell something more, concrete. And I love,
Screw that! I want to write more superheroes. No,
do it. I mean, look, nobody says you guys have to do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, no. So yeah, look, the plan is if this does well, hopefully we'll there is more story. The book sort of leaves it at a place which could kind of close it, but also leaves it open for more.
Okay.
Hopefully it'll do well enough that we'll get to do volume 2, and there's about 3 or 4 planned volumes, but.
That's awesome.
For now, everyone just go read the first volume and enjoy it and love it the way we do.
Exactly. Enjoy. Don't be shy. Take it.
Sorry about the blood.
It's artistically brilliant blood.
Thank you.
Neil Kleid, Andrea Mutti, thank you so much for hanging out on the Comic Watchers show this week.
Thank you too, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I want to thank Pamela with Superfan PR for helping put this together. She's been awesome. Shout out to her. Shout out to all the great people at Superfan. ComiXology will have the Panic #1 on May 3rd. You can check it out then. Until then, guys, there's a lot of crappy stuff in the world. It doesn't have to be your outlook. So get out there, be good to each other, read something cool, and just be your best self for the world. Until next time, I am Matt, and this is the Comic Watchers Show. Thank you so much.